Now, I know most of y'all tune in to the video for cut, but I did tell y'all that coming in College Football 26, we'll be doing a lot more Dynasty. And this Dynasty deep dive, man, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's College Football Dynasty Team Builder deep dive. We're going to break it down. I went through it yesterday, and I'm super excited about some of the things. Since I'm going to be doing Dynasty, I thought I would cover it. So if you just want to do Ultimate Team, I understand if you're going to click off. But for my Dynasty riders, and I know, so I'm going to have a Dynasty with Chad. I'm going to have a bunch of Dynasties, and hopefully, if you become a Dynasty player, you get to play in some of my Dynasties with me. So hit the like button, drop us up. Even if you're not a cut player, and if you play Dynasty, look, show some love on the video. I appreciate all the love and support. I know, obviously, I usually do videos, in terms of cut, but I want to do this video because it's something that I enjoy, right? So that's just bottom line what it is. I wanted to go deep into this because I was super excited when I was reading through it. So that's what we're here to do. Let's see and let's talk about this Dynasty deep dive, man, because I think there's going to be some very interesting things with Dynasty coming up next year. So let's get it.
Hey, ain't we been through it all? Then we sleep on them floors. Everybody we thought we needed, we don't need them no more. Run it up, don't check the score. No, I'm balling.
Now, I'm not going to go super deep dive because some of this stuff is self-explanatory, right? But we're going to go through the blog and try to cover it as best as we can. So building on the foundation, right? Obviously, building your coach, building your program, delivering the world of college football. This is actually the same. You still get to build your coach, obviously build your program. If you want to start with like a 1-2 star, build it up, or if you want to play with your favorite team. My favorite team is Alabama. In terms of the home screen, looks like it's still the same, right? Which is cool. And when I say home screen, I mean the main home screen of the Dynasty. Now, building your coach, creating your coach is a little bit different this year. Not that much different. So you can put it here when starting your Dynasty, like last year, you choose to create your own coach for 7 the role of existing one. Most people create their own coach, right? Now, the big thing that they created this year is they gave you different styles. Last year, you just had one shirt you can wear. So this is pretty cool. I'm not one that really cares for the aesthetics of the games like this, but it is still cool to obviously have this dealt with, right? You have your, obviously, name, officer playbook, alma mater. None of this has really changed your pipeline. Now, the demeanor is one thing that has changed. That wasn't here last year. And then your stance, too. So I guess that's cool. And I guess the adaptive AI, too. But the demeanor, obviously, I mean, if you're going to be intense, you're going to be intense. Now, one thing in terms of coaching progression that I think is really huge in terms of Dynasty this year compared to last year, or should I say, this upcoming year compared to 2025, is that you can read the first 2 paragraphs. They're cool. But last year, players were hitting the cap too early. So in college football, the maximum coach level was increased from 50 to 100. Now, that's huge. If you play Dynasty, in 2 to 3 years, if you're winning games, maybe like 4 years, you can hit level 50 real fast. To get 100, bro, you're going to be looking at probably 10 years worth of Dynasty because obviously once you start winning, some of the XP goes down because obviously just repeating stuff. So that's huge for me. That's obviously going to tie into the coaching abilities, which once we get more information on the coaching abilities, right, and what's in each bucket, we'll break it down even more. Like I said, I'm probably going to be doing 1 or 2 Dynasty videos a week. Coaching archetypes haven't really changed, recruiter, motivator, tactician. I've always think you should go with recruiter, specifically if you're going in a user dynasty, which there's something huge for user dynasties that we'll touch on a little bit later that I think is huge. So recruiter, motivator, tactician, depending on where you want to go, I always say recruiter is the best because motivator is obviously when you motivate to get your players better, which you generally do by playing the game. Recruiting is not something that you can really change, right, when it comes to this. So that's when it comes to that. When we're talking about, if we continue to go down, this just shows the tactician and the motivator side of things. If we're looking at talent developer, that's the same thing, right? That's up here. And if you play Dynasty, obviously that's that. Now the coaching carousel, it's new this year. The coaching carousel is absolutely new this year, where you can see that with the coaching carousel, they've introduced the foundation from last year, but now you receive a notification when your coordinators accept or decline job offers. Last year, when it came to after, I think it was the conference championships, before that you could fire your coaches and then you wouldn't even receive a notification. You would just see job offer, or hire coach or whatnot. So that's pretty cool, but I think this is even better. And I think this is one of the good additions. The coordinators playing such a pivotal role in your team's performance. Now, if you didn't know, the coordinators, if we scroll back up here, coordinators also have this, right? Depending on you, obviously you see up here, head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. If you play college football 25 Dynasty, but your offensive coordinators tree is very important. And sometimes you may have an offensive coordinator with elite recruiter or maximize motivator, right? And you didn't want them to leave, but you didn't have a chance to get them to stay. I think this is huge. So in the program builder tab, which the program builder, if I can scroll back up, is this one right here, this silver one. You have a chance to upgrade some things where it's forever home. Your coordinators are less likely to leave for another job. Deal sweetener coordinators are most likely to accept your offer, and cream of the crop, increase the caliber of coordinators available for you to hire. I think this could be very important in terms of if this is something new that's added to the entirety of the dynasty. Because if you have, like I said, an elite recruiter, you don't want him to leave. Or if there's an elite recruiter out there, you want these two in terms of you want to be able to hire a high caliber coordinator or accept your offer too. So that's absolutely fantastic, man. Like I said, I'm not going to read through this. If you want to read through this, you can literally go on EA Sports College Football and click on this forum and read it all through it. I just obviously wanted to talk about this stuff as I go. Trophy room was huge back in 2014. Obviously, I'm an old head. Y'all know me. I'm older. So back in 14, building up your trophy room is going to be huge. And this is going to be awesome. Like I said, it's not just going to be from Dynasty. It's going to be from Cut 2. I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's going to be awesome to build up your trophy room. Like I said, we're going to have a 20-man Dynasty. Again, if you want to be in Dynasties, we have a Discord. We're in Dynasty is crossplay this year. So I'm going to do a multitude of Dynasty. 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, favorite teams, all the different type of stuff. So got to remember that. Building your program. Obviously, talent acquisition, huge. Huge. Transfer portal is huge. And this is one of the best additions of college football. And I'm going to break it down. Now, this just talks about the transfer portal and its mechanics, and how it looks like. So as a part of the rebalance, we've also changed how we align the star rating to transfer prospects, which is huge. College Football 25, they were just based off overalls, right? So you've had a 95 overall. No matter what class they are, freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, they would get a higher rating. Now it's going to influence on the player's positioning class. Example, 85 overall freshman is going to be a 5-star compared to an 85 overall senior. It's going to be a 2-star or 3-star. Why? Because obviously the freshman has a bigger chance to grow in terms of training, which we'll talk about later too. Whereas a senior, that's their last year and they're capped out, right? So that's also fantastic. Now, these deal breakers, man, this is going to be fantastic. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more as we go into it right here. So if we look at the deal breakers, usually deal breakers is how a person wins or loses a recruit, right? If you play it. So like I said, you can read all this. I'm not going to go into much detail. I'm just going to explain it when I get to the absolute bottom of this. So even if playing time isn't an official deal breaker, it still can be a deciding factor in whether or not they stay, especially if a former 5-star prospect, high-rated backup, most notably quarterbacks. That makes a lot of sense, right? So basically why we're saying that, we're going to go into evolving expectations. Now, this is obviously when it's talking about, if a 5-star freshman comes in and they're sitting, so, and obviously if your deal breakers can change, which is huge because in college football 25, they don't change. And that's what they mean by evolving expectation. Their deal breaker could have came in as a B-, but obviously as time gone on, it's gone up to an A+. And obviously if you're not meeting that deal breaker in college football 25, it really wouldn't matter. As you can see here, the deal breaker have is A+, need is B+, right? So now the reason why that's so important is this down here, right? So if a player decides to leave, the ability within the program better increase chance of persuading a player to stay, get additional persuasion tips, which is huge, and then additional persuasion tips as well. But this is where it's going to get absolutely fantastic when it comes to the transfer portal. I think this is the best addition in Dynasty going into next year. Let me know down below if you've read this blog, what you feel like the best one is. I feel like this is the best one. So dynamic deal breaker, the addition of conference prestige deal breaker, improved playing time logic, college transfer portal, and more reactive, unpredictable. While this brings chaos to modern college football, we also want you to have the tools to customize the experience and make it your own. Now, if we read these new settings, max transfers per team, adjust how many players can transfer to a single team. I think that's huge. Transfer probability. I think this is huge too. Scale on how likely players on user-controlled team are to transfer if their deal breakers is violated. Now, I played so many dynasties where I recruited 5-stars and then I redshirted them. Even though their deal breaker was a playing time, they wouldn't really leave. This is going to stop that. And I feel like if you're in a user league, I feel like this should be at 100. Because if you recruit a player for playing time and then you redshirts, he should absolutely have the opportunity to transfer because it happens in real life. I think this is really going to balance out Dynasty in terms of if a person has a great recruit class, you're going to have to play some of these guys. And you're not going to be able to have an elite recruit class every year because some of these guys are going to want playing time, want to play right away. So you're going to have to be able to balance. Do I play this freshman? Do I do that? I think that's fantastic. Say one of the best additions. You're not just going to be able to have 5-stars sitting on the bench. And obviously you have the same thing when it comes to CPU teams, right? So my school, this is the same thing. Now I'll read this because this is pretty good. One of the biggest changes this year comes in pro potential. Previous grade estimated a program's ability to produce NFL talent based on the current roster. Now pro potential is based on the school's historical draft results, which I think is important. Because if it's based off your current roster, you could have some players currently in your roster that's going, or not. And then obviously you have a low pro potential. But if you're consistently producing first round picks, I feel like that's how I thought pro potential should have been in the first place. And I'm glad they really made that change. This is huge too. Location-based recruiting. Now this is going to be a monster because if you're in Texas, Georgia, Florida, and you're recruiting your pipeline, if you are, let's say a low school like Rice in Texas or Florida International, and you're recruiting against Cal or somewhere up north, Ohio State, you have a chance to where the higher recruiting proximity to home grade with your school, the cheaper we would bring them in for a visit. So the cost of range will go as low as 10. So if they're close in Florida or close in Texas and you're there, you only get 10. Whereas if they're way out of the range, they get 40. Obviously, we know points matter. We don't know how many recruiting points are going to be per season or per week or whatnot. We'll find that out at a later stage, but I think that's huge. That's really going to help if you're recruiting a Florida pipeline. One of these great pipelines, you're obviously going to help when it comes to that. I think that's going to be absolutely huge when it comes. You can see here the schedule visits 40 for this guy because he's in California, but this is Texas. As you can see, this guy's in Wellington, Texas, and his schedule visit is 15. Like, I think that is absolutely monstrous. Now, obviously, we know scouting is a critical part, right? So first, they reorder how attributes are displayed during scouting, ensuring the share ratings across archetypes appear in a consistent order, yada, yada, yada. Secondly, we've expanded the power of mind reader ability, which I've never been one to get into mind reader. I feel like I'm a good enough recruiter, which I will display in College Football 26, where I don't really need mind reader. I'm also hoping that there's not many 99 speed players because I think that really ruins a dynasty when your whole team is 99. Now, this is huge. I think this is the second best addition after the transfer battle, recruiting battle. So in College Football 25, we all had those things where we're in a recruiting battle and then we got jumped or we jumped someone and we really didn't know why, right? So now, when a school reaches a commitment threshold, another right behind them, they will go into recruiting battle. Now, the recruit won't commit right away. Instead, they will have newer, higher commitment thresholds to give both schools a short window to make final push. That's awesome to me. It's not a long-term extension, just enough to create space to a true head-to-head finish from the point on. So generally in College Football 25, right, if a school was way ahead of you, you knew you didn't really have a chance. Now you may have a chance because then it's a race to a finish. I think this is dope because this is what happens in real life. They get down to the top 3, top 2, whatever, and then they say, hey, what can you do for me? I still haven't read anything in terms of Neil, but I think this is going to be close as they give like an example here with LSU and Arkansas. So recruiting generation, this year we've increased the number of recruits generated each season to 4,100, providing a deeper and more varied pool of talent programs at every level. As a part of the expansion, we've also rebalanced several key aspects of recruiting generation, including physical and mental abilities, which each prospect's an individual rating. So last year in the game, or currently in College Football 25, let's say with takeoff, right? If your guy had 99 acceleration, generally they should have platinum takeoff. Sometimes they did not. I think this is going to help with that. I hope we don't see many platinum takeoffs because that's super overpowered in dynasty settings, but obviously you're going to have, recruiting generation is going to be cool, So that's just with that. There's going to be more players recruited. Now, Sway is one of the most underutilized facets of Dynasty that not a lot of people know about, right? Sway is one of the most powerful tools in your recruiting arsenal, but it also is the most misunderstood. I've talked about this several times on stream. In College Football 26, we made several improvements to make this feature clearer, more actionable, and easier to advance when your school doesn't fully align with the recruit's motivation. So basically what it's designed to do is when your school grades don't match up, so if someone has a proximity to home that's an A+, but your school is only a B-, you can sway them, or let's say if they have a green tick and it's for yours that's program prestige, right? But you have conference prestige that's A+, but that's not a green tick. You can sway them to make that a green tick, and that makes that very, very valuable. But obviously, it takes a lot of points. I believe it takes 30 points to sway. Yeah, it takes 30 points to sway. So you can see around here how it gives you an example of it. So when you want to expand what a recruit cares about, which I just talked about, this includes pitches that plays to your strengths. So if you have a tick that's an F-, wait, I don't want to use that. I want to use a tick that's an A+. So I think that's awesome. So when you see sway, now give you the probability of success before making your move. That's awesome. You would sway last year, you basically playing Russian roulette. You wouldn't know. So that's obviously a great feature as well when it comes to that. Recruiting quality of life, same thing. It's just talking about the board and whatnot and how you set it up. You want to read that. To me, that's not a crazy addition. Player progression. This is the third. So I talked about what was it? The transfer portal. I talked about the ability to recruit in battles. Now this is great. Now I'm just gonna get into it and just go down this talks about the player development trait and the player progression, but I want to talk about the training results. So this is obviously the physical attributes, right? Where we're talking about players. This is obviously huge. Your player performance during the season now plays a huge role in the long-term potential. So if a player cooks during the season, they can now upgrade their development rating. Now, with that, it's not guaranteed, and the better a player's current trait is, the harder it is to become to move up. So, for example, it's easier to go from normal to impact or impact to star compared to star to elite. But still, I feel like if your player shows out, he should have his depth trait. So if you have a normal guy, this is where recruiting is going to be more important this year, because a lot of people only recruit stars and elites because they knew their progression would be great. But if you get a normal person who has great physical attributes, you're like, okay, I can play him next year. Hopefully he balls out and he goes up to impact as a sophomore. Plays as a sophomore, then he goes up to star as a junior. You get what I'm saying? So that obviously helps with that. And this ties into that as well. Training results. I want to give EA a round of applause when it comes to this. So this screen has undergone a major overhaul, gives you a better visibility of the growth and progression of each player. Last year, training result was random. There would be normal guys that would shoot up. There would be elite guys who wouldn't do it. Like, it just was no rhyme, rhythm, or reason to how the training results operated. This year, it seems like it's giving you a more visible reason, a visible way to see that is how it's operated. For each player, you can now see exactly how much each attribute increased. Additionally, the player's module in the right-hand side, their weight gain, which is huge, because last year, if you move like a safety to linebacker, they would stay at the same size all year. They wouldn't move and whatnot. So that's going to be huge that they can gain weight. And any ability upgrades, and if the development trait has upgraded as well. So you obviously have your manual progression too. So to manually progress, players use their player guard. We don't manually progress because I feel like that's a little bit cheating, if I'm being completely honest. Position changes, key part. Now, one thing I don't know from this, I didn't really understand that last year you could change people's position and they would gain abilities or they would get better. I hope that's still the case, but I will read it. Obviously, new is transition. When a player moves to a new role, they must learn new positions and skill set. One of them may not directly translate from the previous experience, which I do like that, because if you go from a receiver to a tight end, which was very popular in college football 26, I don't feel like you should have the same receiving abilities you had as a tight end or the same skill set because you're learning a new position. I like that. The skill group caps are also adjusted based on how closely the new position relates to the original one. That's awesome. Obviously, changing athletes are very different, but obviously going from, I knew someone who transferred a quarterback to a safety and he became a better safety. I don't think that may happen in this, but that's not here nor there. That's obviously talking about position changes. Wear and tear is still here. Season and career health, you can see that's still here as well. They talked about how does it change health from season to season. That's cool as well. Auto sub strategy, that's pretty awesome. We have customized settings, which in the Dynasty that I use, I'll always have customized settings that favor the CPU. I think we go user 30 and then CPU 70 to 75 to make it a little bit harder when playing CPU. But yeah, and also this is a big thing. This is one of the last things that kind of talk about big. It's a part of college football history. So essentially, you can keep rivals, right? And you can make new rivals. What I mean, if, for example, I'm going to be in a 20-user league, I want to create rivals with someone on the other side. We can create that rival where I have a rivalry week. Whereas last year, you really couldn't do that, right? So the tiebreaker logic is still the same. But I mean, look, that's literally it. They added new stats that you can do in your quarterbacks in terms of you can see like your touchdown percentage, interception percentage. Now they do have new positions and new archetypes, which I think is fantastic. So these are some for receivers: speedster, pure burner, route artist, which I really hope they make route artists, or what used to call route runners in the last game, usable, because in Dynasty people would just go for the deep threat. So I'm hoping that each one of these guys have their own je ne sais quoi, why you should be able to get them, or why you should go after them as well. Physical route runner, so that's going to be like a 6'3", elusive route runner, which is going to be like a 5'11" guy who's route runner. Gritty possession, so it's going to be a big receiver who you throw, who can come down with the rock. Gadget receiver is probably going to be like, a fast 5'8" guy. And then you have your contested specialist, which is probably like your 6'4" big receivers that you can hide one to. Then you have your formation subs, customized conferences, and protected opponents. So this is what I was talking about, where you can protect your opponents, where you say, hey, they have to play them no matter what. Scheduling updates, I think this is huge, because in the scheduling in 2020 and 25, when you did the schedule, sometimes it would mess up where you couldn't schedule, or you would have more home games and or more away games in conference than out of conference. So I think that's dope as well. But let me know down below if you've read through this. Like I said, there's not much more to really go through. I've gone through the nitty gritty. Obviously, this confirms crossplay or whatnot. So And this is obviously just breaking it down when it comes to the team builder and what you can do and all that you can customize. We know how that rocks when it comes to team builder, but that's it for me, man. Like I said, the big 3 things for me, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything down here or whatnot. I don't think I did. Obviously, they're talking about toughest places to play. Brian Diddy, number 5, makes sense. Pirate Stadium, number 1. Yeah, that's it when it comes to me. Let me know down below how you feel about this. I'm very excited about Dynasty. Like I said, I've always played it. Back then, I played it a lot. So like I said, the 3 biggest things for me is the transfer portal and being you actually gonna. I felt like more big schools should lose players, and I think this is gonna be the case. The recruiting battles is gonna be awesome. That you have a chance, even though someone may be in the lead or whatnot, or sometimes you don't know how people flipped up. Jumped ahead of you. That's great. And yeah, the last one was I think it was talking about the bear with me one quick second. What was the last one that I mentioned? Oh, the sway feature was good. But there was one. Oh, the training results. The training results to me. So the transfer portal, the recruiting battles, and the training results. Being able to actually see your training results is a huge, huge thing. And I think this is going to be fantastic. So let me know down below. This might be a little bit of a longer video. I actually don't know how long the video is. But nevertheless, hopefully you guys did enjoy it. I'm super excited when it comes to Dynasty, man. Like I said, we will be bringing Dynasty content to the channel. It's not just going to be cut, it's going to be Dynasty as well. So, because I do enjoy it. That's probably my favorite mode to play. So I might as well bring my favorite mode on the YouTube so you guys enjoy it as well. I'm going to have Dynasty tips, how to recruit and all this different type of stuff as well. So, I'm out. Deuces. Excited for 26.